Welcome, beautiful mamas. I am your host, Shay Harrison. This podcast is a place for Springfield and local surrounding area mamas to share their stories about life, motherhood, and everything in between, completely judgment-free. I am so excited to be able to share these stories with you and give women an opportunity to be heard. So if you're ready to laugh, open your mind, and be part of a supportive sharing community, let's crack on. Welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for coming on. So I'll just get you to introduce yourself and then we'll crack on with your story.
Yep. Hello everyone. My name is Maria. I'm mum of two boys, a 20-month-old and almost 7-month-old.
As if he's 7 months.
Yeah, almost.
Oh my goodness. Maria started training when she was pregnant. So,
Yeah.
And you're only 16 weeks, I think, then.
Yeah, almost a year ago now.
Yeah.
So June last year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm 23 years old and I've been married got married in 2019, so almost 3 years now. So I wanted to talk about, so my youngest was born via cesarean section, and I just wanted to talk about C-sections and tell my story about how I ended up having one and how I think it's affected me and helped me to grow as a person and as a mother. So
That's really positive.
Yeah.
Because, your story is actually quite positive.
Yeah, it definitely was. Yeah.
In the long run. So,
Yeah.
I'm really excited to share this.
Yeah. Awesome. Alrighty. I'll start from the beginning. So my pregnancy was pretty standard. Everything's, pretty normal throughout my pregnancy. So originally my goal was to have like a natural birth because I had, with my first, had an epidural.
Okay.
So I wanted to...
But he was a vaginal birth?
Yeah,
and
so
then...
vaginal epidural.
Yep.
So I wanted to give it my best shot at having a natural birth. That was my original... Because it was kind of a goal, kind of wasn't, because I always have like an open mind and
when you say
my goal...
natural, you mean drug-free and vaginal?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So my goal was to always have an open mind
Yep.
about, because I know lots of different things can happen unexpected.
Yeah.
But that was what my goal was in the end. That was what I was sort of going for.
Yeah. It's good to, I think, have a goal, but also understand, like you've just said, if you fixate on, I'm having a drug-free birth and I'm having this and I'm having that, and it doesn't come to fruition, it's so hard to come back from after labour.
Yeah.
So that's a good
Definitely.
approach. Yeah.
I think that having that approach has helped me with both of them because, of course, with both of them, that didn't end up happening with both of them.
Yep.
And even with ending up with the epidural with my first, which also I think, turned out for the best. Coming after both births, I didn't have any, regret or anything, which I think is really good.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So during my pregnancy, everything's pretty standard at, I think it was like 37 weeks.
Yeah.
So pretty late. At my midwife appointment, they did the little scan, and the baby was sitting sideways. So I think it's like transverse. And before that he was head down. He wasn't engaged, but he was in the right position.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'll backtrack a little bit, as before that I've always just had this irrational fear of surgery. So it's always everyone has this sort of one thing that's their main fear.
Yep.
And mine was surgery.
Have you had new tonsils out or?
No, absolutely nothing. So the C-section was my first surgery ever.
Yeah, wow. And it is a big surgery, and it's your baby, so it's just going to make that whole fear 1,000 times worse.
Yeah. So after that midwife appointment, I sort of knew straight away that, if the baby's not in the right position and everything, then it can result in a C-section.
Yep.
So the midwives gave me all of the exercises like spinning babies and things like that, different various things that you can do to try and move the baby, make it flip.
Yeah.
Which I did for the next week, and then I went for another scan.
Yeah. So what were some of the exercises you were given? Can you explain any of them?
So one of them, the main one that they gave me, was to you kneel on the edge of a couch, or a chair, but they usually recommend the couch. And then lean off it, so with your elbows on the floor.
So elbows to the ground, knees up on the chair.
Yeah.
So you're basically upside down.
Upside down.
Like a triangle.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep. So head leaning down towards the floor. That's the main one. That is on the Spinning Babies. It's sort of like a program that all the midwives, recommend
Mm-hmm.
for breech babies. So I did that a few times a day, every day, and then I went for another scan 1 week later. So I think about maybe it was around 38 and a half weeks, and it had worked.
Oh, success.
So yeah, so
Relief.
So he was head down, ready
Engaged?
for birth. I think so actually.
Yeah.
He was either engaged or like almost almost there, so we just like really relieved, we went out for lunch afterwards to like celebrate.
Success.
Yeah,
Good. I would feel relieved as well.
Yeah.
And go out for a celebratory, not champagne, obviously.
exactly.
But
So after that I was wanting to go into labour. I was like, because I always thought like it was a possibility that he could move again.
Okay.
So I was like, just go into labour,
Eating all the chili.
Anytime, just get him out before he has a chance to move again.
Yeah.
So then I think it was about 3 days later. So I had the scan on a Wednesday, and then Sunday night I'd just gone to bed, and every baby's like super active, like right when you lie down.
Yeah.
And they're like,
Or right on your bladder as well.
yeah. So like, oh, you're going to sleep now. I'm just gonna have a party.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna
Practice
do
kicking.
all the things. Yeah. So that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
And he was kicking so hard. He was just like moving around so much, and I could feel him just like moving around so much.
Yeah.
And then he just kicked, the water's broke. The water's open. So I've just felt this really big jab.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I actually, like, he just kicked it open.
Wow. I did not know that was a thing.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
crazy.
So I just felt this really big kick.
Yeah.
And waters just went everywhere.
Wow. Was it painful, or was it just like pressure?
Just pressure. Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't painful or anything.
Yeah.
Just like, big surprise, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then we called the midwives up, and they, got us to go into the hospital to get checked. So we packed everything up, finished off packing a hospital bag just because, just in case I stay in.
Yeah.
So I went in to get everything checked, and they're like, yeah, your water's broken. So they wanted me to stay in. They didn't want me to go home, just so they thought like to keep me in to see if I go into labour in the next, I think it was 12 hours, I think. And then if I didn't, they induced me.
Yeah, okay.
So
Because there's a risk of infection once your waters break.
Yeah, I think so. So I think 12 hours is usually the max.
Cool, so we just had to have a little pause, but Maria will continue her story from here.
Yeah. So, so they only want to around 12 hours if your waters have already broken.
Yep.
So because of the history of him moving around a lot, he'd been, right position, wrong position, right position. We just asked them to do another scan to check that he was still in the right position, just in case.
Yeah.
And so they did the scan, and he was not only sideways, but breech. So he'd done a...
Oh, no.
So I'm assuming when he... the previous night, or that night, when he was, moving around a lot, I'm guessing, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm guessing it may have been when he went from head down to head back up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wasn't 100% aware that he had moved. People always said, like, midwives, etc. have always said, like, that you'd sort of feel it if they move, if their head goes, moves around. But
Yeah.
I didn't feel him move specifically, him move breech or anything. So yeah. So we discussed our options with the doctors. So they said, like, you can try vaginal breech birth, or you can just go straight ahead and do a cesarean.
Yeah.
Because the hospital I was at, they're quite, like, they'd done lots of breech births, so that they were quite, comfortable
That's
with it.
really good.
It was good that, I'm glad that it was an option that we could,
Yeah.
consider.
And it's good that they were supportive, because I think there are other hospitals that don't give you that option.
Yeah,
and then
I've
if
heard
you
of it
find
from
out
people as well.
afterwards that another hospital you could have had the option, and that would be a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah,
So
if
that's
you'd
really
just
good.
been
They
at
had
a
the
different
support.
hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so the doctor explained as well. So the baby wasn't what they call a frank breech. So like straight up and down. So the bum is in the pelvis instead of the head.
Yeah.
He was like breech, but he was like a little bit off to the side.
Yeah.
So
okay.
neither his head or his bum
were in the position.
was, so
the
it
canal.
was in the, yeah, pretty much. So, but they still said, like, they were really, really good with, like, letting us know, you know, all of our options, because they still further said, like, they recommended that we have a cesarean in that situation.
Yes.
But in that, but they said, like, if you do choose to have a vaginal birth, it's possible that the contractions potentially could, like, straighten him up and make him move.
Oh, yeah.
But I just thought, like, you know, I could still end up with cesarean anyway because, you know, breech birth, you know, awkward position.
Yeah.
And I'd already, you know, we'd been in there. I think we'd been in the hospital for a good few hours, I think, up to that point.
Had you started contractions?
I hadn't, no.
Just your water, and that was
just,
it?
Yeah,
and obviously
so
him being in the wrong position.
Yeah. So I didn't end up having a single contraction.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, so we were talking about trying to decide, you know, one or the other.
Yeah.
And I just thought I'd rather just go ahead and just get the cesarean and just get him out because, you know, I thought I could potentially go through goodness knows how long hours of labour. My labour with my first was, like, really long.
Yeah.
Extremely long.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to have to. I just thought, I just eventually decided, you know, just go straight to C-section.
Yeah.
Just because then I could just end up having one anyway.
Yeah.
You know, there's like a super high chance that I could have just ended up with one anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's what I decided. And, the whole, like, the C-section, like, having it and the recovery was much more positive and much better than I anticipated it, which was pretty good.
In comparison to your first as well? Was it harder?
The recovery definitely. Kind of fine with the vaginal birth, obviously, you know, like the actual birth is harder, but then the recovery is a lot easier.
Yep, yep.
And then with the cesarean, the recovery is harder.
Yeah. But
the actual birth is easier because you just, you know, get the C-section done. And it's really quick as well. It was quite fast. I think from when I went into the theatre to when I came out was probably like 45 minutes.
Wow.
Which is it's quite fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it ended up being really good because it wasn't, you know, an emergency. It didn't have to go in ASAP. I had the chance to meet and have a little chat to, like, all the midwives and the obstetricians and all of the doctors that were going to be there came in and introduced themselves and everything, which was really nice as well. But yeah, and the recovery. So the recovery was, I feel like, a lot quicker than I expected. I think I was back at training at 8 weeks, I think.
You had a clearance. Just want to put that out there.
Yeah,
I had gotten a clearance from her doctor to return to exercise.
Yeah, which I was quite surprised to get it straight away as well. You know, because I didn't know what to expect with the recovery and how long it would take and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think so. Even though having a C-section wasn't my original plan, it was quite a positive experience, and I think, you know, I'm quite glad that I've had it. You know, it's like now it's like just like one less. It's kind of like helped me to get over that irrational fear of surgery.
How did you feel? Obviously, you made the choice to have the cesarean. Like, it wasn't your first choice, but there was the choice made. How did you feel then going into surgery, having this fear? Were you feeling positive because you'd been able to make the decision, or, like, you know, what were you thinking? How were you feeling at that point?
I was kind of feeling like a mixture of both.
Yeah.
I was, I was quite nervous, but yeah, at the time, I think I was probably more nervous about having a C-section, like, before, when he first at that first midwife appointment, you know. But then actually, like, at the time going into it, I felt pretty confident about the decision, I think, because I did have quite a bit of time to think about it, really.
Yeah.
Because from when we first went into the hospital, when my waters first broke, to when he was born was about 12 or 13 hours between that time. So, yeah, I had like a good few hours to think about it, and, you know, there was no rush or anything, because I had, like, you know, 12 hours before they would need to, like, induce me or do anything, really. So I think because I had a fair bit of time to think about it, and it wasn't an emergency, you know, situation, I think that helped to, I guess, feel a lot more positive about it. And at the time, I don't remember feeling extremely nervous or anything. Definitely a bit.
Did you feel like it gets to the point where it's about the baby? Like it's not so much now about you having a cesarean, it's about getting your baby here.
I think so,
safely.
Yeah. Because, so I think earlier on I was more focused on, you know, like the cesarean, and like how I was quite scared of having to have surgery and, like, you know, that sort of thing. But yeah, definitely, like, at the time I was, like, you know, thinking more so about him, and, you know, thinking like, right, you know, the waters have already broken and he has to be born pretty soon, and, like, you know, have to prevent risks of infection and all of that sort of thing. And also the fact that there is risks with a breech birth, you know, of course. So so I think just I was thinking more about him at that time, so that sort of helped me to not be as scared, I guess, about
Mum's become fearless.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of how it felt, you know. How at the time you kind of just get, like, when you're actually going into it, whether it's a vaginal birth or a C-section, whether it's natural or whether you have an epidural, I feel like when you think about it beforehand, like during the pregnancy, you might, you know, be a bit scared of the birth or whatever, but then when you actually are in it, when it's actually happening, you just get all of this strength that you didn't know you had. Yeah. That comes, like, right when you need it. Yeah. So that's kind of how it felt, I think, you know. Yeah. Going into it. Yeah. So,
do you remember, obviously, because you had the decision, I'm going to keep referring to it as you made the decision to have the cesarean. Yeah. Do you remember, like, gowning up and moving from one bed to the other bed and the whole process? Yeah. And was that, like, how did you feel through that? Or were you just so focused on, like, let's get baby out?
Yeah. Kind of sort of felt like, so I just, after I'd made the decision, I just got to that point where I was just like, right, let's just do this and just get it done, and then baby will be here, and we'll meet him. And also, of course, the excitement of, like, you know, knowing that
he's going to be here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, when we were getting ready to go into the theatre, I was like, right, like, he's literally going to be here in, like, less than an hour. Yeah. And that helped as well, because then I was like, you know, I could feel excited about, like, we're going to meet him, like, so soon. Yeah. You know.
Did they, like, with the actual surgery, did they tape your arms down, or
so
like, what do you? I haven't had a cesarean, so I don't really, like, I've seen pictures and things like that. But
it's sort of like a weighted blanket.
Yeah. Okay.
Almost. Yeah. So, you're sort of on the operating table, and then you have your arms out. Yes. Like that.
Like a T.
Like a T. Yeah. And they sort of, it's like a half. So on the top half of your body, they put. That's what it felt like. It sort of felt like a weighted blanket. Because I remember learning in the birthing classes that we did during pregnancy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That I think when they're doing the cesarean, apparently can't remember the details, but apparently there's some kind of reflex that can happen when they do the incision and when they're moving everything around to get the baby out. There's a reflex that can potentially happen that can cause you to move your arms around. Yeah. And, you know, if you're moving too much, your arms and everything that's not numbed up. Yeah. It can cause issues, and they could, you know, cut the wrong area or something. So that's why they they make sure that your arms are weighted down and you can't move them around much or anything. But I just remember Sean, my husband, was allowed to be there, luckily. I was, you know, as with both births, actually, I was getting a little bit nervous about with COVID and everything, of just who can hospital visits and everything, how many visitors, but luckily he was able to be there. And we played some music. The midwives had a speaker in there, played some music. And it was really nice. Like, he was absolutely amazing. Like, during the C-section when they were doing it, he was sort of just like talking and distracting me, and he sort of just talked about memories and things like that. And like, we talked about our holiday to Portugal that we'd done.
Oh wow, that sounds
in
nice.
2020.
Yeah.
So we just talked about all the memories and things that we fond memories and things like that, which is really nice. It just went really fast. And
because you said 45 minutes.
Yeah,
that is
roughly.
Really quick. Yeah.
From when you go into when you came out.
Wow.
It was 45 minutes to an hour, which is pretty fast.
Does Sean get to cut the umbilical cord, or how does that work?
You can, but he was not really a fan of.
Okay,
he didn't really want to. He kind of just wanted to stay up.
Yep, stay at the top end.
Yeah,
yes.
he's a little bit squeamish about that kind of thing.
Okay, that's fine.
So, but yeah, they did give him the option.
Oh, that's nice then.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. So.
And then did he? After he was born, did he get put on your chest, or did he have to go? Yeah.
Or he, they took him over to the table just to check him and do all of those things. You know, literally just 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then they take him back, put him on chest.
Oh.
Yeah.
How big was he?
That was good. 8'3", which
Maria is tiny. Through her whole pregnancy, she looked like she just had a basketball under her shirt and a small like a kid's basketball.
My first was £8.12.
Wow.
So he was even bigger. It was funny because £8.3 is what I weighed when I was born.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
right.
it's exactly the same.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I had another question. So he was then brought on your chest, and then do you just go to the birth suite? Not the birth suite, sorry, like the ward together, or just did he have to go into NICU or anything?
No, luckily. So we just I think we went into, so we didn't go straight to the birth suite. We did go into another room, which also I can't remember what it was called, for about 1 or 2 hours just to monitor me. Yeah. Just to make sure that, you know, the spinal's wearing off and everything. They checked the blood pressure a few times. Pretty much just for, you know, some extra monitoring, just because of the spinal and everything, the surgery. And then if everything's all good, then you go off to the recovery ward there.
And did you feel good? Like, I know after having my girls, like, I was just buzzing.
Yeah.
Like, I should have been exhausted, but I felt, like, full of energy, and I didn't want to sleep. And just wanted to look at them. Did you feel like that, or?
Yeah, which was quite crazy because I was, I remember thinking beforehand that, I remember, you know, remembering how I felt after Michael was born, you know. Yeah. You have all this energy, this like newfound energy that just suddenly comes up after they're born. Yeah. And I was wondering if it would be the same, and it was. Yeah. Probably not quite as much. Yeah. Just because I guess the spinal's a lot. I mean, I still had the epidural with Michael, but the spinal was a lot more stronger. Yeah. A lot more strong. So, probably not quite as much as my first, but it still do last. So I guess all those natural hormones and everything still come, even with the cesarean, which is nice. Yeah, that's really good.
Did you find, so with Callie, my eldest, the love grew, but with Cora straight away, I loved her. Yeah. How did you feel with your boys? Loved them from like the get go? Yeah, straight away. Yeah. It's funny how really like your brain and your emotions and everything process so differently. Yeah. But I think, either one, you know. I think a lot of the time, a lot of people, you know, obviously say, you know, like, oh, you'll love the baby straight away, you know. But a lot of people, I've heard from a lot of people even that, you know, it's, I guess that like immediate connection that everyone seems to say, like, oh, you know, happens to everyone, but it doesn't happen with everyone. No. You know, and I think even if it doesn't happen straight away, you know, that's still, I still think it's totally normal. Yeah, you know, because everyone's different, of course, you know. Yeah. Everyone's going to process this, you know, sort of things differently. So, you know, yeah. That's really lovely. And then how long were you in hospital for?
2 nights.
2 nights.
Yeah. So, try to, so I think they got me out of bed that night. So he was born at 9 a.m. And they got me out of bed just to walk to the bathroom that night. I think it was maybe around 9 or 10 p.m.
How did your legs feel? Were they like jelly, or they just wouldn't?
Yeah. At first, I think it was more so, because just around that time the spinal's wearing off. So that first walk, that first time getting out of bed was quite difficult. But they say, like that first one, you just like get the first time done, and then subsequent, each time that you get out of bed, it gets easier from there. They first like suggested, asked me how I was feeling to get out of bed. I think it was around 4 p.m. It's a bit earlier on. And I was like, nope. I was like, no, I can't get out of bed yet. And I just like mentally didn't want to try to like, get out of bed at all yet. So it was quite nice that, they gave me the few extra hours then, 5 or so hours to...
Were you worried about standing up, or it just was a no? Like, you don't know why it was a no, it was just a no?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I was just... just hadn't got up to that point yet where I wanted to try. I think mentally, I think it was kind of like you get like the rush after, baby's born, couple of hours, and then I was kind of like going through that like the exhaustion was starting to hit in, starting to kick in, I guess, around that time. So around that time, 4 p.m. in the afternoon, the exhaustion was sort of hitting in, and I was wanting to have a sleep, and a bit later on, I guess I was more mentally prepared to give it a go. And I think for me it was actually getting up out of bed was more difficult than the walking. Once I'd got up out of bed, that was sort of felt like the hard part was over, and then I could sort of slowly shuffle my way to the bathroom.
Is that because your core strength is just gone?
Yeah, it's sort of like you turn over, and you use like so much core strength, and you don't realise just normally how much core strength you need to do like everything almost. So once it's gone, it's like, whoa, it's just like, it's a massive shock. And I just remember even after Michael was born, how much you sort of notice after that. But so once I got out of bed, walked to the bathroom, back again the first time, it got a lot easier from there. And the core strength does come back quite fast, I've learned.
Oh, really?
Faster than I expected, really.
Yeah, right, that's good. Awesome. Cool. Is there anything that you wanted to add?
I just think, to anyone else out there that may be listening to today, that if that may be in the same situation, that may need to have a cesarean, even if it wasn't like their original intent, they wanted to have a natural birth or vaginal birth, whatever else their plans might have been, you can definitely still have a positive, uplifting experience even with cesarean. I think, of course, a lot of people do choose to have, elective cesareans, but also a lot of people don't. And I just think a lot of the time cesareans can be, I guess, just looked at as though like something that happens, something that like only happens in an emergency, and if it happens, you have like a bad experience, and it'll just be like, but you can definitely, I feel like that kind of reputation almost. A lot of the time they can, I guess, be spoken about as, because I know that's definitely how I sort of felt before, and I guess maybe that was the reason why I was also so nervous about them. The concept of the thought of ever having to have one was, I guess, all I'd kind of heard about them was like, oh, they're traumatic and stressful and really hard to recover from, and that is definitely, a lot of people, I guess, may have that experience, but not everyone, and I think that's something that isn't talked about a lot, I guess, how you can have a cesarean and still have like a really positive experience, and I guess just not regret the fact that you needed to have one, even if it wasn't your original plan. I think it would be really good to I guess just sort of bring more awareness, I guess, to the fact that if you need to have a C-section, even if it wasn't your original plan, that it's not all negative, and you can still have a really good experience.
I think that
with the
message can be
C-sections.
applied to cesareans, and if you're planning on having drug-free birth, but that doesn't happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
with
just because it's
anything,
not
not
what you
just.
want.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
even if, you know, you wanted to have a drug-free birth, then you needed to get an epidural, or you decided to get an epidural, you can still have, you know, even if your plan changes last minute, like your birth plan or your goals, for whatever that was, even if that changes last minute, depending on what your situation may be, it's not all, you can still come out of that with just feeling like you have had a really positive experience. And I think that definitely needs to be talked about more, because you know, I'm thinking more specifically like I guess in from my experience, what I can think, you know, I've seen, you know, things online like on Instagram or, you know, anything, not everyone of course, but I guess just the general way that birth is spoken about, you know, a lot of the time I see, you know, things said like, I guess just a general idea that if it doesn't happen, you know, the way like if you needed a cesarean, etc., that's, you know, definitely something that you just really need to avoid that. And but, you know, that's not the case, because, you know, I think cesareans and epidurals and all of that like exist for a reason, and we are definitely more better off because of the fact that they exist.
Yeah.
You know, and cesareans have saved so many lives in really emergency situations, and they're a good thing, like they're a positive thing. It's good that we have them. It's not a bad thing, and it doesn't mean that you've failed as a mother, or you failed your baby or anything just because you needed one, you know. I think that needs to be talked about more. I think the positivities of cesareans and epidurals, and not just that if you needed to get one but you didn't want one, that's a bad thing, because it's not. It's not a bad thing. I think it's good.
What you've said, like, you haven't failed your baby
Exactly.
because you need one. You haven't failed yourself because you need one.
And I think, you know, in the future, if I have more children, I would still like to try to have a natural birth, but if I don't, that's totally okay as well. Just whatever needs to happen. I think to you know, at the end of the day, the goal is healthy mother and healthy baby. So whatever needs to be done to achieve that, I think it's good. You can have a good experience.
Awesome, that's so lovely. Well, thank you so much for sharing your uplifting and positive birth story. We've had not everyone has that experience, so it's been really lovely for you to be able to share that. So let's finish with some of this or that. So burpees or get-ups?
No, burpees.
Burpees. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Wine or... Do you drink?
Occasionally, sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah, just like in a social setting, I might have like one drink.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you rather have no arms or no legs?
Oh, that's a hard one. Probably arms.
No arms?
No arms, yeah.
And if you could live anywhere in the world, which one would it be? Where would it be?
Probably somewhere really close, but I'm probably going to go and say the Gold Coast. I think, because I love Queensland. I would never want to. I always want to live in Queensland. And I also love the beach, so I think like living right next to the beach in Queensland would be perfect.
Yeah, nice. And which kid's your favourite?
Trick question.
They're both even. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your story.
Thank you.